Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new installment of the Literally Me podcast. This is a very special episode because this week we have another guest, our second guest on the podcast, and you've heard his name before. We've mentioned it quite a few times, and that is, of course, Mark. Mark, hello.
Hello, Dino. Hello. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's snowing here in Germany, so hence why I'm wearing a
Yeah,
hoodie. It's
yeah,
really cold, minus
yeah.
5
Oh
Celsius.
my, oh my Christ! It's typical English weather here. It's pouring with rain. So,
Yeah, as
good up.
expected.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's if this is a Hollywood film, it would be appropriate. You look out the window and it's London and it's raining. So it's
We also got some sunny in Florida with Tristan, who's also
yeah.
joining us as always.
I was gonna say I'm literally just about to get up and turn on the ceiling fan now because I'm so damn hot. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Mark, have you ever
Nice.
seen a ceiling fan in person?
Yeah, in when I was visited in Spain, a
Mhm.
friend of mine, in a Spanish villa, they all had fans going,
Yeah.
but not really anywhere else I can recall.
Are there no
Um,
ceiling fans in the UK either?
I mean, there might be in some places,
Okay.
but I can't recall it. It's not a typical English trope to have a ceiling fan,
Okay. Because we
I'm
talked
afraid.
about this, I think, not last week, but maybe a couple episodes ago. Because
Yeah,
I found out that in Germany there's no air conditioning at all, like no AC systems
yeah.
whatsoever, and no ceiling fans. So I'm just like, what the fuck do you do if it's hot out? Like, what are you supposed to do? Just sitting in the
Oh,
ice bath?
same thing we do. We just sit here and moan about it like mad. You
Yeah.
My
just
God.
but in a kind of understated English way, because it's not like, I guess
Sure.
where you are in Florida. I mean, it's kind of a more of a the humidity is slightly different. Like, it seems to be higher in Europe when it's uncomfortably hot. It's like this undercurrent of humidity. Everything just sticks to you.
Yeah.
The air, and not just your clothes, but the air, and it's just an uncomfortable heat. Whereas when you're in a more tropical climate, I guess it's a bit more bearable, perhaps. But yeah, no, mate, I could definitely jump for a ceiling fan when it's that hot, when it's or
Yeah.
an air conditioner or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, bless
100%.
you. I
That
bet
was
you.
that was pretty mind blowing discovery for me to realize. I was like, Jesus. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah. But when it's cold, it's cold. So I imagine it's not very cold in Florida when it gets
no,
cold,
yeah,
I suppose.
for December, I mean, right now we're solid in the 70s, so
Oh my God!
Fahrenheit at least. So,
Right, Christ
uh,
Almighty.
so that's a Florida Christmas. But either
Yeah.
way, we're talking about the second half of Gosling's 2016 run. Last week we did La La Land, and this week we're doing The Nice Guys. Um, which I'm curious to know for both of you guys, sort of your history with this movie or the first time you saw it. If you have any kind of memory of first time seeing this movie.
Mark, do you want
Yeah.
to go first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I remember it very well. Yeah, as you say, yeah, it was a double whammy of Ryan Gosling this year, and I remember taking this girl to see La La Land, and because it's a great date movie, and they had the trailers already for Nice Guys. So I went with a good friend of mine I used to work with. He's a big Shane Black fan like myself. And what was great is, because usually in the trailers you think, are they only showing the best bits? Is it going to be good? Is it, or will it not be funny? Because it was also Russell Crowe as well, and he's not usually known for his comedy chops. I mean,
Mhm.
he can be funny, but I couldn't recall a film with him being funny. In fact, he made one with Ridley Scott, a comedy, which really wasn't very funny. We're set in the south of France, running a wine vineyard. I don't know if you guys saw it.
I
No,
haven't
well,
seen
I don't
you
think
didn't
I've seen
miss
that.
much. It looks
Yeah.
pretty because it's Ridley Scott. I mean, he makes everything look absolutely stunning and everything. And I think they made Gladiator, and they thought, hey, let's do a rom com with Marion, and it's all set with Marion Cotillard in this wine vineyard, and Russell Crowe playing like he's basically playing like a Hugh Grant type thing with floppy hair.
Oh,
Going, oh
yeah.
oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh look at this wine. So yeah, it wasn't very good. But anyway, I'm digressing. Um, it was so yeah, I went to see this film with my friend Rob, and he said, let's do it. Let's have a few beers. Shane Black is unashamedly, a guy's film. It's not really a girl's film. So the cinema where we went to see it, it was running an offer the night we saw it. It was like, guys saying, buy 2 beers, get a free hot dog, and all this sort of thing. So it was like they're trying to make it as laddie as possible. Be like one of the lads. And and of course the cinema was full of guys, and it was very loud. And but as soon as the film started, it was genuinely funny. Like, it was laugh out loud funny. It was the right balance of this Shane Black old school's kind of humor, the sort of jokes you probably wouldn't be allowed to make today. Or I think, or jokes I hadn't really heard recently in films. So it was that kind of humor. And yeah, I mean, I just remember it being a blast from start to finish. It was it's the sort of thing where if you laugh too loud, you miss the next joke, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because it showed that it was like, because Crow was obsessively playing the straight guy. The feed for Ryan, and Ryan Gosling was just absolutely hilarious, because it's the first time I've seen him really do comedy, and it's and he's playing a bit of a a bit of an idiot. But his timing was flawless, as was Russell Crowe, and the supporting cast as well. They were really good. But it's the script, the one-liners, and obviously the great 70s setting with the with the music and the cars and the fashions and everything. It was it looked good. It felt right. It was just a blast, man. It was I remember. Where did you first see it, Dino?
Well, I remember my friend wanted to watch it in the cinema when it first came out. But
Yeah.
at that time where he wanted to see it, I was on vacation, so I couldn't go. So I missed it in theaters. And then as soon as it came out on Blu-ray, I just bought it because, I don't know, cover looked good. I love Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
And I was just like blown away. It was so funny. It was the first time seeing Ryan Gosling really put up his acting chop, like his comedic chops, the comedic timing of this, and it was just a lot of fun. And just the buddy cop dynamic is what really stood out. And yeah, it's just such a funny Ryan Gosling film with so much flair, so much style, and I just immediately loved it. What about you, Tristan?
Yeah, I don't think I actually saw this in theaters when it came out. I don't think I got to it in time. Because I was really trying to rack my brain and try to remember if I did, and I feel like my earliest memory of seeing it was seeing it on like streaming, like maybe like a year later or like 6 months later or something like that. So I never got the full big screen experience. But since then, it's one of those movies, like I was saying before we started recording, that I just sat down and realized I've watched it like literally like 3 times this year, just because it's always popping up. I'm like, oh yeah, let me throw this on. It's always fun. I have the Blu-ray up in the collection too, so it's always there. Um, and it's super super funny, and it's one of those movies where the cast is like surprisingly so stacked. Like, there are so many people that even when I rewatch it after like a few months, I'm like, oh shit, there's Kim Basinger. Like, I forgot that she's even in this.
Wow.
And then like when Matt Bomer like pops up, I always literally forget that entire part when he
Same.
like pops up. I'm just like, oh yeah, there he is, of course. But yeah, man, I really really like this movie, and I've only seen this and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang when it comes to Shane Black. I don't know that I've seen anything else that he's written / directed.
Well, you're in for a real treat, mate, because there's
Yeah.
some. If you like this, I was saying to Dino. He said, "Have you got some films that you could recommend to like 4 films that kind of that go
Yeah.
well with this film?" I mean, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is obviously one of them.
hmm
The other ones I'd say that I think both of you would love is there's The Last Boy Scout with Bruce Willis and
Oh, wait,
Damon
did he write
Wayans.
that?
Yeah, Shane Black. Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah,
was.
that movie rules. Yeah,
Yeah,
Tony
so
Scott.
Tony Scott. Yeah, and there's The Long Kiss Goodnight with Sam Jackson and Gina Davis. That's very much in the same. The one-liners, back and forth banter and everything. Brian Cox is in it as well. I think he's got a cameo. in it. But it's great because running throughout all of Shane Black's films, there's also a theme of Christmas. You know, so it has to be a Christmas reference. Going back all the way back to Lethal Weapon. You know, it's I mean, Lethal Weapon would be a good one to add to the list, I guess. But there's so many so many other good ones. I mean, obviously Iron Man 3. You know, that's very much you know, Shane. There's a little bit of it in there. You know, with Downey Jr. and everything.
Yeah. Now that I was gonna say, now that I'm actually looking at the letterbox, I actually have seen like he wrote Monster Squad. I had no idea that he wrote Monster Squad.
He did. Yeah. I mean, he's written
that's kind
some
of crazy.
and he did
or
a script.
Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2. That's insane.
Yeah, and I think he did a version of The Last Action Hero.
He did.
Schwarzenegger.
I see that right here as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't much of his version was left in the finished cut because obviously they were rewriting as they went along. But there's still little moments that you can tell were pure Shane Black. You know, it's yeah. No, but I recommend, as I say, those other ones, Blancas Goodnight and Last Boy Scout. They're definitely. I mean, they go hand in hand. You could do it as a triple bill with The Nice Guys.
Dino, you got to see The Last Boy Scout. You have to see this movie.
I'm adding it to my list as we speak. I've never seen
and it's
it.
American football too, Dino. So it's a sort of subplot within the film to do with that. But it's just brilliant. I mean, Willis is funny anyway. I mean, obviously that's a given, you know. But Damon Wayans as well. He's they just fit nicely together, you know. The
great
dialogue.
Chemistry.
Yeah, great. That's the thing, chemistry. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, they just they go so well together, and I recommend it. Definitely.
Well, Mark, I'm curious for those listening if they are unaware, or maybe they've only seen The Nice Guys, or maybe they clicked on this and haven't seen any Shane Black. Sure. But when you say that something is very Shane Black, what are some of like the main things that like pop up that you're like, that's 100% written by Shane Black, or that's 100% his, came from his mind?
Yeah, no, great question. So a typical Shane Black film is usually obviously the dynamic between the two leads. There's usually two leads, and they'll have a playful banter relationship. You know, there's sort of a love-hate relationship, I guess, in a way. And there'll be lots of put downs, which aren't usually very PC as well. You know, I mean, it's usually the sort of jokes. There'll be sort of one-liners thrown out of nowhere. And throw at them, but yes, it'll have that kind of thing. It'll have a lot of dark humor, a lot of black humor. In fact, you know, very very sort of macabre jokes in a way. And as I mentioned, you know, there'll be a slight Christmas theme in there somewhere. You know, a bit of violence, a bit of slapstick, but a typical Shane Black is usually he is a genre unto itself. Now I'm trying to describe it. It's a bit indescribable, but it's very niche. It's a bit like, you know, it's like when you're watching a Scorsese film, you know it's a Scorsese film. There's certain camera tricks and things he does, you know, and I guess Spielberg to a point. You know, you're watching a Spielberg film. But with Shane Black, sometimes it's hard to tell you're watching one. He's not really one for that. But in terms of his writing, he has there is a certain wit and panache, I guess, and it's just funny, you know. It's a very type of humor. It's not everyone's kind of humor, you know. I remember watching Nice Guys on a rewatch with a girl, and she just didn't get why I was hysterical, you know. She thought I was high on something, but I said no, it's funny. But I guess it's more of a guy's thing, I guess. You know,
maybe. I think that's a good way of putting it. Is like he does genre movies, but he does like self-aware genre movies.
Yes,
where they're all very aware that there's supposed to be a serious genre, whether it be a noir like this or like a horror movie like Monster Squad or whatever. But they're always very self-aware and always like poking fun at itself.
Oh yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. You're right. It's
the characters always know what to say. Like they're so well written.
Oh yeah, when they have something to say, it's perfect. Like it's the perfect one line to say at that time. You know, I mean, like from The Nice Guys. I mean, there's In terms of the humor, there was a great line where they're questioning the kid, and then the kid says, if you give me $20, I'll show you my dick, which you wouldn't normally get in a film nowadays. You get in a lot of trouble because it's Shane Black. You can get away with it, but because I remember laughing in the cinema when that come on, because everyone was like, "Oh my god!" Because it had been a while, I guess, since you sort of had that kind of dialogue in a film. And so, but when Ryan Gosling says, "But we just gave you $20," what am I saying? He just walks away. It's just that's a typical example of Shane Black. It subverts people's expectations as to what's appropriate and what isn't, and it's a little bit risque and everything. And another line that just came to mind as well when the Ryan Gosling's daughter and the Nice Guys, and he comes home and finds she's still at home and says, "You're supposed to be over at your friend's house having a sleepover." He goes, "Yeah, but her sister's got a guy around." He goes, "Oh yeah, her sister's such a slut." It's just a throwaway kind of line, but it's very very Shane Black, He just
100%.
Yeah, I just love things like that. So it's but yeah, the film's littered with these sort of things, It sort of carries, because the other thing as well, the kids in these films, not just Nice Guys, but Last Boy Scout, the kids are more adult than the adults, or more sensible than the adults. I don't know if there might be a thing trick all the way back to Monster Squad, but it's like Last Boy Scout as well. Bruce Willis's daughter, she's sort of a little bit more ahead of them than the adults are, So that might be another trope he has on there. The kids kind of see the world as it is, and everyone else is just catching up. But another bit as well, just remembered as well, when they're at the bowling alley and all the kids are freaking out, and he just shouts at them, Ryan Gosling. He's just like, "Jesus Christ, one at a time!" And the girl's like, "You took the Lord's name in vain." "No, I didn't, Janet." I found it very useful. As a matter
Very
of fact,
useful.
Janet.
Okay, Janet.
I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, Janet." He just, I mean, it's a great Gosling moment. Like, he delivers that really, perfect. I can't imagine anyone else sort of doing it as well as him. It's he's such they're really great characters, like I say, and him and Crow kind of underplaying it in a way. Really, really, really good. Really
Definitely.
good.
Definitely. And I'm
Go ahead.
go ahead, Dino. No, you go ahead.
There's another great scene that I love where I think it's like at the last party they're at, and Ryan Gosling steps in, and the bartender's like, "Hey, what can I get to you?" He just looks at him, he's like signaling he doesn't want anything, and then he's like,
Yeah.
"It's free," and he just looks back.
Yeah.
It's just it's probably like my favorite scene. It's just so funny, and just Ryan Gosling. He doesn't even say anything, but the way he performs it just makes the joke so good.
And did you guys notice the Robert Downey Jr. cameo in The Nice Guys?
I didn't.
No.
I don't think I did either.
No, it's a very famous scene. He plays the body of Sid, the porn guy, when he sort of throws the body off the balcony, and he goes to light a cigarette, and then the corpse is lit up, and it's Downey Jr.
Robert Downey Jr.
with all blood and a stick-on beard. It's that's Downey. He did it as a cameo for Shane Black. He did it as a free.
Oh, so, no kidding!
Because I mean, it's not. A lot of people miss it. I missed it. I also, on the first time watching it. It's only afterwards. If you rewatch it, it's actually got Downey. He's all bloodied up with a stick-on beard, and Gosling sort of, and he does that sort of like he can't speak sort of sound. He's Abbott and Costello routine. He does. It's so yeah. I mean, you probably Google it. You'll find a screen image for it.
And now it's so obvious. I mean, now looking at these close, it's so obvious that
it's like a magic trick. Once you know the secret, it's sort of like, how the hell did I miss it? But I mean, I saw it on a big cinema screen and I still missed it. Like, if I'd known it was there, obviously I would have looked for it. But yeah, I like that. I love the fact they just dump him over the fence. And
I know.
He's,
it's really kind of like awe-inspiring to see this, because I was going back through Ryan Gosling's filmography now while we were talking, and this is like the first like true comedy that he's the lead in his career. And he does The Big Short, like that'll be our next episode, which is a comedy for sure, but he's not really the full lead of it. Like, it's very much an ensemble where he kind of makes an appearance, he leaves, he comes back. But like for like a true comedy that he's like leading, I think this is the very first one. Because I don't really consider like Lars and the Real Girl to be a true comedy. I think it's more
No.
drama with some comedic moments in it.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that movie. I cannot wait to discuss it on here. It's so good. And I haven't seen it in so long either that it's one of those from like I've wanted to rewatch it so many times. Like, I'm just going to wait. Like, I'm going to wait for the podcast episode.
It's good. Yeah. Have you seen it, Dino?
I have, and I'm excited to rewatch it and to pick out similar films. That's what I'm most excited for, and just talk about.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, man. That'll be a good one. But it's crazy because not many other actors can really like command and like pull that type of like role when they haven't done that before. And not that he has no experience with comedy, because he can do it all, but to do it so flawlessly as if he's been doing comedy his whole career is cool. And same with Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe was very funny in this movie.
He was, yeah. No, he had me like I said, the only thing I saw was that thing he did with Ridley Scott, and it's but I don't think that was more his fault. I think it's more obviously the script, but this is he plays to his strengths, and he has got some genuinely funny moments in it. And I just remembered as well, you mentioned Kim Basinger, she plays the mayor, or not the mayor, the
what's her name's mom.
Yeah. In fact, the porn star, of course, that's played by in real life. That's Andy McDowell's. Yeah, Andy McDowell's.
Yeah, Margaret Qualley. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. She's awesome. But yeah, Kim Basinger, of course, her and Crow did LA Confidential. Back in like 25 years ago. And they played.
That's right.
Lovers in that, and they were electric in that, and it's it's such a fucking great movie as well. But he's really good. I mean, he's great in that. But I generally forgot watching it, because that's how invested in the Nice Guys it was. That and she hasn't changed at all. I mean, she's got this kind of timeless, beauty about her. She's really good.
And she really went up after this movie too. Like, after this, this was like, I think the first thing that she was really kind of in on like a larger scale. I feel like. I could be wrong, but prior to this, I can't think of any other films. And since then, obviously, there's been so much, like Once Upon a Time, especially.
Yeah.
That kind of launched her up into a larger realm.
Yeah. No, she's good. She's got and I can see her mum. Adam McDowell. She's got that kind of looked at her. But in fact, there's another sister, another daughter of Andy McDowell. She's also an actress / model. I can't remember her name, but she was in an episode of Mad Men, and she's a complete knockout. She's absolutely stunning.
Rainey Qualley.
Yeah, that might be her. Yeah, she's gorgeous. Yeah. She's modeling a fur coat for John Hamm, for something they're advertising, and
that's awesome.
I mean, as soon as it started, I was just like, holy shit! Like, she's just a real natural. I mean, they're all stunning. But yeah, I just remember that one episode is it just completely knocks you out. But no, she's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, of course. Yeah, it's the Pussycat, right? That was her name. Everybody loves pussy.
Yeah.
Or something. So Brad Pitt. Yeah. Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. So, but yeah, no, it's good. I'm so glad you're doing this Ryan Gosling retrospective, because it's what's wonderful is what you're discussing is not the same thing all the time. He's gone, we've gone from a musical to a comedy to a drama to it's all quite a bit of roller coaster of types of different films, which is what a good actor should have. Really, you shouldn't just play the same thing all the time. So it's been a buzz, man, listening to it all.
Awesome.
You guys discussing it.
Much appreciated.
It's been really good, and I look forward to the next one. So say Lars and the Real Girl, that'd be a real. That's a very hard one to pigeonhole, because he looks quite different as well, because he I don't know if you know, he's put on a bit of weight for the film.
Yep.
and grow out the
and
beard a
and
little
and
bit.
he had a beard. In fact, he was even heavier before they filmed it because he was going to do Peter Jackson's The Lovely Bones. I don't know if you know that.
Yep.
Oh, was he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was going to play the father in it. Mark Wahlberg eventually played, and he Peter Jackson obviously hired him, and he turned up on set very overweight, very bearded, and he said, "What the hell's this? Like, you look completely different." He says, "Well, I don't think I look old enough to be the girl's dad, you know,"
Dad,
and
yeah.
so and they had a bit of a fallout from it. And he said, "Well, I don't want this for my film," and he says, "Oh, that's it." So he quit, and so while he still had that look, he jumped on and did Lars and the Real Girl. So it's so yeah, he doesn't look like how we used to
Yeah.
seeing Ryan Gosling. So so yeah, he went a little bit method there, right? And he's not normally a method sort of actor, I suppose, but I'm glad he did do that for the Lovely Bones because that was
I feel
obviously
like
he didn't get to do it, but
I feel like the method was something that he was definitely maybe toying around with a lot earlier, and then once he got to
yeah,
like a halfway point, he's kind of like, all right, I think I'm good just being a normal person who shows up like to
yeah,
their job like anyone else and puts on their suit, does what they got to do, and then leaves it at the
yeah.
office and goes home.
It
I think so.
was
Yeah,
tough one because he put so much weight and then it was for nothing. So he was like, I'm not even going to
yeah.
try anymore.
I'm not even gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
guess
mean,
because
it works for Lars and the Real Girl for him to kind
it
of
really
be
does.
a little like out of shape and just like because he just lounges around like he's not he's very isolated, so he's not really going to be out here being active in like any kind of way.
That's a good
Um,
point. Yeah, I think if he looked like how he normally looks, in
it's
recent
not
films,
believable that this
he
man
wouldn't. He
is going
wouldn't
to
believe.
be banging a
Exactly.
mannequin if he looked like
Exactly.
hot ass Ryan Gosling, you know?
No, it's a great point. I think that should be
Yeah,
your jump. That'd be your jumping off point for your chat.
100%. Maybe we focus on attractive actors who were very unattractive for a
So,
movie
yeah,
for that one or
that
something.
that'd be a good podcast. That you could have
Um,
good ones.
but I'm anxious to start getting into some, especially since we got three
Yeah,
people bringing in some movies today. But for those, I guess I'll slightly explain it to you, Mark. But I know you've been listening, and I know you're very well aware. But for any new listeners, every week Dino and I usually each bring four movies that we think that this Ryan Gosling character would think is literally him. Um, but this week we're adding in Mark's, and I believe we're doing three each this week. Just so that way we're not here talking for 6.5 hours. But yeah, I'm curious to know, Mark, if you want to go ahead and kick it off. I'm curious to know um, what your first movie is that you think this Ryan Gosling character from The Nice Guys would think is literally him.
I'd probably go back to what I mentioned earlier. If he was watching, The Last Boy Scout, like the because he's playing a private detective, Bruce Willis. He's super cool, chain smoking, and he says the coolest things, even in the face of danger. I'd imagine that his character would see himself as like that. He's
Mm-hmm.
got the relationship with the daughter as well. The who's it's a bit acidic. Um, it's got one of my so many great one lines. Another one that sort of comes to mind in Last Boy Scout is there's this he's been cornered in an alley, Bruce Willis's character, by this big black guy in a kind of pimp's hat, and he's got a big gun shoved in his face, and and Tristan will remember the scene, and he's trying to disarm the guy with jokes, and he says, oh, where do you want it, in the front or the back? He says, oh, well, that's what your wife said to me last night. He says, I fucked your wife last night, and man, it was an ordeal. And he says, oh yeah, how do you know it was my wife? He says, well, she said her husband was a big pimp-looking motherfucker in a hat. And he says, oh, well, you're a real tough guy. You're about to take a bullet in the face. He says, well, after fucking your wife, I'll take two. And he ends up making the guy laugh so much he's able to disarm him and
Get away, yeah.
get away. But it's that sort of thing. That's how I imagine, because obviously Gosling's character doesn't see himself as this slightly inept, slightly out of his depth, private detective. So that's so that'd be my first choice.
That's a great choice.
Yeah,
That's an amazing choice. Dino, you got to get on this movie. Tony Scott really is a very, I feel like, underrated and underappreciated director, especially
massively.
for genre
Yeah,
films. Probably the best. I
he's
went on a big Tony Scott marathon last year after he passed, and that was the first time I had watched The Last Boy Scout. Actually,
a good man.
it was during that
Yeah,
run. So
he's
yeah.
good. He's one of those directors you know it's a Tony Scott film.
Oh yeah. Oh
Without a
yeah.
doubt. He's got a very visual aesthetic that you know instantly, like from Top Gun onwards, it's Tony
Mhm.
Scott, you know, and Beverly Hills Cop 2, it's a Tony Scott film through and through, you know, and so yeah, Last Boy Scout and you know, Crimson Tide, or yeah, you get quite different genres,
Oh
but
yeah.
always a Tony Scott film, you know, always with, you know, terrific actors. Enemy of the State, that was a great film.
Yeah. Great movie.
With
Will
Will Smith
Smith.
and Gene Hackman. And Gene Hackman kind of playing a sequel. It's a sequel to The Conversation. I don't know if you ever saw The
A little
Conversation.
bit. One of my
Yeah,
favorites. Yeah.
I know he was a big fan of it, Tony Scott. And there's little. Obviously, he's not called the same character, but he could be. That's what I liked
Yeah.
about it. Like, it was a kind of unofficial sequel, so I like that. And Spy Game with Robert Redford and Brad Pitt. You know, this
I never saw that one. That's one of like the couple that I did not get
yeah.
around to at Tony's. Yeah.
It's good. Again, there's no mistaking who the director is, and that's kind of a dream team because you're thinking, oh, well, they should totally do a film together, and
Yeah.
it's just it's as good. It's like watching an old Robert Redford with a young Robert Redford. It's
Thank you. Yeah.
they do
Yeah.
work well off each other. I know they work together on the River Runs Through It and everything, but on screen they do work well together. It's but no, he's got a great aesthetic, and he's different from obviously Tony Scott's the older brother of Ridley Scott, and
Yeah.
Ridley says, you know, I make films and my brother makes movies. You know, it's you know, he makes the popcorn stuff, and I try and make the serious stuff. But then yeah, Ridley did do a great movie, as he calls it. I talked about it with Dino on a podcast recently that I'm with about. It's called Black Rain, and it was
Yeah.
from 1989. It's Michael Douglas and Andy Garcia, and it's a very Tony Scott looking Ridley Scott film, and all set in Japan, and it's got shades of Blade Runner, of course, you know, because it's Japan,
Yeah.
and you know, smoke and lights and rain, and but yeah, it's a great action film, you know. It's but done by Ridley Scott, so but
Yeah.
yeah, Tony Scott's the man.
I actually have the DVD for Black Rain upstairs, and I've never put
Ah,
it
good
in. I've
man.
never seen it.
You're in for a treat, my friend.
I'm gonna
It's
throw it
really
in.
good.
I'm gonna throw it
Yeah,
on soon.
please do.
Um,
Hans Zimmer does the soundtrack, and it's early
oh,
Hans
does he?
Zimmer. So
I was
so
gonna say that's early Hans.
yeah, it's early Hans. So, and he doesn't do subtle. He just proper goes for it. So
That's awesome.
you know, he's very early. He's probably very keen to show off what he's got.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, no, it's all good. It's a good little film. You know, I mean, it's not going to win. He didn't win any awards or anything, nor should it. But Douglas is really cool in it. He's almost playing like a Shane Black type character who
Interesting.
smokes and drinks a lot. You know, a New York cop into motorbike racing, and you know, doesn't play by the rules. You know, does it all his own way, sort of thing. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. I recommend it. It's
I'm
good.
gonna throw it on. Maybe I'll throw it on this week.
Yeah, in fact, that'd be my second one. That's who Ryan Gosling
All
would see
right.
himself as. But
All right.
Michael Douglas in Black Rain.
Two for one. All right. I love that. Well,
Yeah,
Dino, let's hear your first one then.
Mine might be a bit obvious, but I chose Chinatown just because there's
oh
so
yeah,
much similarities, and this film is
yeah,
obviously inspired by it, and it's one of the best modern noir films. I'm not going to mention the director's name, but of course it stars Jack Nicholson, who's great in it, and there's also like this funny connection because in this film Jack Nicholson has like he gets punched in the nose. He has like this patch on his nose. And this
yeah,
one, Ryan Gosling, like he breaks his arm, so he has his arm cast,
yeah,
and that's like sort of to show that this character, gets beaten up and things like that. And I think they share a lot of similarities. and it's just pretty much about this detective who gets tasked to pretty much to surveil a man, like a husband, for the wife, because she thinks he's cheating on her, but then slowly uncovers a very big mystery that, for every one thing he uncovers, there's like a billion more questions that open up, and it's one of the best noir films in my opinion, and it's just so great. And I think Ryan Gosling's character could definitely watch this and be like, "Oh, he's like me," or maybe he was inspired by him and wants to be a detective because of him. So that's my first film.
Heck
Awesome.
yeah. And to the listeners, he didn't want to say the director's name, so I'll say it. It was directed by Woody Allen. Wait, no, different pedophile. Sorry, different pedophile. I get those confused. Sorry, Roman Polanski. Yeah, that's a great movie though. Dino, for my first one, I wanted to go with something that was like a real like L.A. like true L.A. noir. And so I'm throwing it back a little bit to Kiss Me Deadly from 1955 by Robert Aldrich. Mark, have you seen this movie?
I haven't seen that one. No, I haven't. I like Robert Aldrich. But I haven't seen that one.
I think this one will very much be up your alley. Dino, I feel like we've talked about this movie before, the two of us.
It
You
sounds
haven't seen
familiar.
this movie. Yeah, you haven't seen this movie either, right?
No,
I'm almost positive this movie's available on YouTube, like worldwide, like for
Nice.
free. Like someone put up like the Criterion like scan on YouTube. It might have been taken down by now, but um, this movie is like there's no way that like Shane Black didn't take some kind of inspiration. It's one of those real like
Mm.
kaleidoscopic sort of the way that it's shot is so ahead of its. It's super influential, and actually, I did bring this up, Dino, a few weeks ago because Tarantino took from this movie for Pulp Fiction, and so did Alex Cox for Repo Man, with the
very
Nice.
idea
comfortable.
of the luggage of the suitcase that opens up and it's glowing in John Travolta's face, and
That's
then in
right.
Repo Man you open the trunk of the car and it's glowing. That's all taken and lifted directly from Kiss Me Deadly, which is a real like Cold War paranoid sort of like 50s noir. And there is this like luggage or this suitcase that opens up and there's this massive beam of light that comes over Cloris Leachman like when she opens it, and it's like this classic like Hitchcockian MacGuffin where it doesn't mean anything in this movie, it doesn't mean anything in Pulp Fiction, doesn't mean anything in Repo Man, but it's this thing that is carrying us across the whole thing. Um but this movie is super super good. It's based off a Mickey Spillane novel
Awesome.
from back in the day, like one of the great noir writers ever, like alongside Raymond Chandler.
She's
And
great, Cloris Leachman. I didn't
Oh,
know she was
she's
in it.
so good. She's so
Yeah,
good. Young Cloris Leachman,
yeah.
an
But she's
early
an
role
attractive
for her.
woman.
Very. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
very attractive. And
because I
the
only know her
opening,
from the older films with Mel Brooks, and where she was made up not to
yeah,
look very attractive.
of course.
She's
Yeah.
they make her look quite horrible in Young Frankenstein, and
Oh yeah.
and high anxiety. But she's I mean, she's funny, but I can imagine her being really in Last Picture Show as well. That's the other.
Last
Um,
picture show.
I think she got an Oscar for it. I think.
Yeah.
But she's no, yeah. I've never heard of this film. Well, I've heard of the film, but I've never seen it.
Oh,
Um,
dude,
so
definitely check it out. Like I'm
I,
almost,
I've
I'll
added it to
double
my
check
list.
it. But one
Yeah.
of the all-time great noirs. It's funny. It's super cool. You can see the influence like crazy. And Ralph Meeker, who was in
Oh,
Paths
great.
of Glory,
Yeah.
he's the lead, and
He's great. He reminds me of
he's
a
so
John
good.
Turturro type.
A
He's
little bit.
that
Oh yeah,
that kind of look to himself. So
a little bit. And honestly, I could see Russell Crowe kind of looking at this character
yeah,
and sort of also being like, yeah, that Ralph Meeker guy.
that's
Like, I can kind of
me.
see some similarities between Russell Crowe and him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's my first one, Kiss Me Deadly, from 1955. I know Mark just dropped two, so Dino, you want to
Yeah. I'm
run
sorry.
run
I didn't.
another one again?
I got
No,
carried away.
no,
I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
that's
I'll
we
go
love
with
it, Dino. Let's
number.
go for number two.
I'll go for number two, another detective film, and it's called The Kid Detective. Have any of you guys seen this one?
Oh, it doesn't ring a bell.
The Kid
Okay, so
Detective.
it's The Kid Detective. It came out in
Uh,
2020, and it stars Adam Brody. And it's a film I only watched recently, and I really liked it. So pretty much, it's about this this guy, and when he was a kid, he solved this case of like a missing money fund for his school. And so he became the kid detective for his town. And pretty much he had a tree house that was his office, and kids would come to him and be like, my homework got stolen, you have to find it, and things like that. Until his secretary, she was kidnapped pretty much. And that's when shit started. He got older, and there's a time jump. He's now much older, and he's taking drugs. He's not really. He's still a detective, but life definitely like took a beating on him. And this girl comes to him, and she says her boyfriend has gone missing, and she's also in school. She's a lot younger, and so he's slowly uncovering this mystery that links back to his missing secretary like 15, 20 years ago. And it's a very cool film. It's super stylish, and I could also see this one maybe for him, like the kid detective being inspired by the detective in The Nice Guys. And it's just one of those films that I could kind of connect to it, and it's just a very fun, fresh take on a detective film. And yeah, that's my second one. I highly
Awesome.
recommend
Yeah.
both of you to
Yeah,
check it out.
I'll make a note of that as well. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, I just added it to my watch list right now. I have Letterboxd up right here. I've never heard or seen this movie ever. It looks super cool though. Adam Brody's a really good actor.
It is. He's great in
Yeah.
it. It's one of my favorite roles of his.
I'll check it out for sure.
Your
Well,
next
my
one.
second movie is one of my all-time favorites. I probably have talked about it on this podcast before, but it's like in my top 5, and that's Robert Altman's movie from 1973, The Long Goodbye.
Oh wow.
Which
Great
is
film.
probably like, in my opinion, my favorite neo-noir or like 70s noir movie. And I think objectively it might be the coolest 70s noir movie that's ever been made, because Elliot Gould like tackles that that Philip Marlowe character unlike any other actor ever did prior or ever after. Like
Mhm.
Robert Mitchum, Humphrey Bogart, like they all did, a good job. But like the
Yeah.
way that Elliot Gould does it, and it's only because Robert Altman directed it. Like he only could have done
Yeah.
that under Altman.
Yeah.
But it's a great LA, Malibu noir, Southern California noir that's very Hollywood centric. Like it literally opens with the Hollywood music, the na 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 na, and closes with it. It's bookended by that music.
You know who did the music for that? It was John
John Williams.
Williams. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
and
unbelievable.
you'll love this, Dino. It's the same. He wrote this song called "The Long Goodbye" for the film,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and you hear the same song throughout the entire run of the film, but you hear it at different things. So the first is a big sort of brassy jazz version of it, and then he walks into a supermarket, and it's the supermarket version of it, played on like this Muzak type thing, and then you hear it played. He's in Mexico, and you hear a mariachi band playing the same song.
Walking by,
So it's the
yeah,
same. It's the same music throughout, but played different genres and things. It's quite amazing. I didn't get it at first, but when I watched it in subsequent reruns,
yeah.
it's such. And as Tristan says, it's. I mean, you wouldn't normally put Elliot Gould in this because there's Robert Altman, and he just embodies his character so well. He's probably the coolest. I have all the we mentioned Chinatown and all these cool detective like characters, but I think he's probably the best one. 'Cause with,
100%.
with a cigarette hanging out, and he's got such a great outlook on life, and his catchphrase is "It's okay with me."
It's okay with
That's
me.
it's okay with me, and
Yeah.
it's just such a great. It just sums up that character brilliantly. Yeah, it's an epic choice, mate.
He's one of those characters where he only serves to like entertain himself. He is not
Yeah,
concerned about entertaining anyone else, or because and Mark, you'll know he always has this like inner dialogue with himself. He's always talking to
yeah,
himself.
he is.
Like
Yeah,
he walks into the supermarket, which Mark
yeah,
mentioned earlier.
yeah,
First, he has a match that he just scrapes upon any
yeah,
surface, like literally glass, and he'll light a cigarette, toss it, and
yeah.
he'll go up to this. There's this kid who's working like bagging or who's stocking the shelves in the supermarket.
Right,
He's like,
yeah,
do you have a Curry brand cat food? And the kid's like, cat food. He's like, what do I need cat food? I got a girl. And LA Cool just walks away. He's like, oh, what do you know? He's got a girl. I got a cat. And he's just constantly is always talking to himself like that. And it's so funny.
He's
and
narrating
it's
to
so
himself.
good.
Yeah.
Always.
Because
Always.
it's not like usual detective films where you have you hear their inner monologue. You hear his monologue. He's speaking it
out
out
loud. Yeah.
and I just remember, doesn't he see the supermarket guy later on in the film? Like
In
he's
jail.
arrested, and he goes, "Hey man, how's your cat? Yeah, oh, not bad. How's your girl?
How's your girl? She's good. She's good.
She's good. Yeah, and it's a throwaway line, and again, it's one of those films. It really rewards on repeat viewings.
Oh yeah.
I'm jealous for Dino because you're in for a real treat, mate.
It's been on my watch list for so long. I think it's one of my first Letterboxd watch list entries. I need to throw it on. I need to throw it on these days. I think
I got it on Blu-ray. You get the Blu-ray of it. Because I think it
if you can
comes with
find that Kino Lorber one, it's unbelievable how good it looks.
It looks good, and I think you get the you can have music only track, so you can hear all the John Williams variations. But who's it? Tristan that plays the bad guy in it. He's a really good. I think he's a comedian.
Mark Rydell, I think is his name, or Mark Rylance.
Rydell, I think it is. Yeah,
it's something like that.
He's
who plays one of the main bad guy.
Yeah, and he's probably one of my favorite scenes in the film because Arnold Schwarzenegger is in it as well, Dino.
Yes, that's right. His first ever role.
He doesn't speak as far as I recall, but he's playing a henchman, bodyguard type. And what happens is this guy Mark Rydell plays. He asks him to strip all his clothes off for at some point, and and so Arnie's there and he's stripping off. Everyone's taking their clothes off, and it's a bizarre scene. But the bit I remember was he's got the bad guy's got a Coca-Cola bottle. And he's trying to get information out of Elliot Gould. And so he takes his Coca-Cola bottle and he smashes his own girlfriend in the face with the bottle. Like smashes her like that. Like she's bleeding. It's horrible. It's a real shocking moment. And he says to him, it's quite a chilling line. He says, that's someone I love. Imagine what I'll do to you if you don't tell me what I want to know.
Yeah. He's like, her I love, you I don't even like.
That's it. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great line in that genre. I mean, you can imagine that in any one of the films that we talked about. But it's
honestly a great parallel to Chinatown because the girl comes back later on and she has the whole nose bandaged up when you see her again. But that Schwarzenegger is so funny because in that scene too, and we can remember he's like. He tells the one guy, he's like, all right, everyone take your clothes off. He's like, what? Yeah. He's like, all right, everyone needs to take their clothes off. You see Schwarzenegger takes it off. His pecs are like bouncing and shit. Yeah. And then one of his henchmen, he's like, hey, man, he's like, I don't feel that comfortable in my body. He's like, all right, you go wait outside. Yeah. And the guy just goes and waits outside while they all take their clothes off. But it's so good. And Sterling Hayden has an amazing supporting role in this. One of the all-time great actors.
From what I gather, he wrote his own dialogue.
I think he was just improvising a lot.
He was in his Ernest Hemingway phase with the beard and everything. And every script was beneath him. He was quite a difficult character to work with, but he wrote his own dialogue. But it works with the with Gould. It works for the scene. Really well. So sorry, I'm riffing.
Yeah, we could talk about that movie for ages. We could talk about that movie forever. Dino, you got to see it. Mark, what's your third and final pick for these movies?
This is it's another detective story. It's Paul Newman, and it's called Harper, and it's from 1966, and it's written by the great William Goldman. He obviously went on to write Butch Cassidy and All the President's Men and all these great films, but it's a detective story. But he's I can see Gosling's character liking him because he's a bit of a not low life, but he's at a low ebb. He's a detective who sleeps in his office. He's got a sofa bed, and he hasn't got enough money to buy coffee. He has to reuse the same granules, and it's all set up in the opening shot. And but it's got a terrific cast. It's got Lauren Bacall, who's this rich lady who's looking for a missing husband, and the supporting cast is played by he's got Robert Wagner and
Robert Webber as well, who's a very underrated character actor.
He's very sinister in this. Actually, it's quite because it's mid-60s, but the violence is quite.
It's ahead of its time. It's very much one of those movies that predicts like that new Hollywood thing that Bonnie and Clyde would do like a year later.
That's a perfect summary of it, actually, mate. That's perfect. Yeah, and Shelley Winters as well got quite a funny role.
That's right.
It's this alcoholic actress who he applies booze to, and she's. But it's a great character for Newman because he's a bit wisecracking. He's cool, but he's he's got a few problems. So he's constantly being beat.
Janet Leigh as well.
Oh, Janet Leigh, plays his ex-wife. Who he's trying to win back, but he knows deep down he never will, sort of thing. And it's a great little film. Not many people know about it. Well, I don't think it was one of Newman's biggest films, but it's part of his Lucky H films. He went through a period of if the film's got H in the title, it's going to be a hit. And he had The Hustler, and he had HUD. And he thought, what the hell? Let's call it Harper. So. He's really good in it though. I recommend it because he's as I say, he's a bit it's got those noir elements, as I say, as William Goldman, and Strother Martin's got a great little part. He's always in Paul Newman's films. He's the guy in Cool Hand Luke. The what we got here is Failure to Communicate. He's got a very distinctive voice. He's got a great, crazy little role in it. That'd be my third choice because it's Newman playing it cool. He's a private detective, and he did a sequel to this, in fact. In the 70s, The Drowning Pool, with his wife in real life, Joanne Woodward, and Murray Hamilton played the villain in it. He was, the mayor in Jaws. He was a villain with a strange quirk. He had a stomach problem. Like he was a cordon bleu chef who couldn't eat any of the food because it made him sick. So he's tormenting Newman, cooking this food up, and then when he finishes it, he lives on this big boat in New Orleans, and he throws it over the side so the fish can eat it. So it's a random thing I remember from it. But I mean the sequel wasn't bad, but the original is probably worth seeking.
I gotta see The Drowning Pool. I have not gotten around to it. I just pulled it up now, and Melanie Griffith looks like has an early role in that as well.
She's about 14 or 15, and she tries to seduce Newman. It's a bit of it's probably a very awkward scene to watch, but it's in keeping with his character. Obviously, he throws her out the room, sort of thing. But he does a similar scene in The Color of Money, where Tom Cruise's girlfriend tries to seduce him. And he sort of, and he does it in Harper as well. He sort of locks the door and goes, "Well, come on then." And they're like, "Oh, wait, hang on a second," and they panic and they get out. So that's his. Rather than physically manhandle them, he calls their bluff. So it's it must be something he's probably done in real life.
Sure.
But I go mad, imagine. But it's little things like that. I can imagine Gosling's character, identifying with. It's worth seeking.
That is a fantastic choice. I've seen Harper only one time, probably like a handful of years ago, so I don't really remember it that well. But I do remember loving it so much, and I remember the cast, like everyone at Robert Wagner, Robert Webber, Paul Newman, Janet, like just all these favorites of mine. Like I got to rewatch it. I might rewatch it this week and turn up with The Drowning Pool.
It's got little kind of Shane Black type lines, like Nice Guys, like one of the characters you mentioned. I won't spoil it for Dino in case he watches it, but. One of the guys turns out to be, a villain and tries to shoot Paul Newman, and he's saved at the last minute by a friend of his, and then his friend's like, "Listen, could you do me a favor and talk to this girl for he says like, you want me to go up and he just saved his life. He says, you want me to go up there and make a fool of myself? What have you done for me lately? It's like, it's just these. He had a really great sense of humor. He's another one, Newman, who could a bit like Ryan Gosling. He could do comedy really, really good. He could be really funny. You look at The Sting. I mean, it's just The Poker Game, for instance. He's got great comedy timing. it's and Harper's got those little beats in it. It's so yeah, that's my third and final choice.
I actually see a lot of Gosling and Paul Newman now that I'm actually sitting here and thinking
Yeah,
about it. Like I really see a lot of parallels between like how you mentioned Brad Pitt. Like it's
yeah,
almost hilarious watching Brad Pitt and then watching a Robert Redford movie because it's like, oh, this is what Brad Pitt has made his whole career
yeah,
on is just doing Robert Redford.
yeah. It really is.
Um,
3 Days of the Condor is a perfect example of that.
oh,
You could
100%.
you could be watching. I mean, that's such a hidden gem because not many people know about it. But I'm lucky in the UK here. They there's a film channel and they seem to show it every week on it. So
Heck yeah.
if there's nothing on, I think I know 3 Days Gone will be on, and
Yeah.
it's but yeah, it's a great little film. And he's always eating in it. You know, it's the sort of thing that
Yeah.
Redford did that before Brad Pitt. There's
Yeah.
there's a thing I think is a comedy routine on stage when Jim Carrey used to be a stand-up. He did a
Yes.
routine of Robert Redford eating in films
Yes.
way
Yeah.
before Brad Pitt was doing it. And he combines it with the Redford double take where he'll be eating something and then he'll
Yeah.
look at someone and then he'll look away but I can't do it, but he totally nailed Redford way before you can totally see where Brad
Redford
Pitt's
did that. Yeah.
stolen it from, but if you're going to steal from the best, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
Dino, what's the third and final movie for your picks today?
Before I get into that, someone needs to make like a cowboy movie with Brad Pitt and Ryan Gosling, just so we can have that like that parallel. But yeah, my
That'd
third
be
pick-
good. Yeah,
yeah,
because they're in The Big Short together, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's true. Yep.
they got I think a couple of scenes together, but they don't. I mean, Ryan Gosling's looking. I mean, you'll probably discuss it. Gosling's got a bizarre kind of permed, dark, kind of hair thing, fake tan thing on, and
I'm thinking about it. I don't know if they actually share any scenes together in The Big Short.
I think there's one.
Is there? Okay.
From memory, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I think there's one with Steve Carell and they're in the meeting room. I think they've got one scene. I think
Maybe because I remember
you'll have
Brad Pitt
yeah,
was teamed up with like the Finn Wittrock character and that other kid, the one who's
yeah,
like grown up to be in past lives and stuff.
yes,
Joe something I think. But I
yeah,
remember he was very much like their confidant, and I love that he just always stayed in the shadows and stayed away from
yeah.
the actual nonsense of any. But anyway, we'll talk about that next
You'll
week.
get that, but it's a good idea. I'll
We'll
be
get to
bang
that
up
one.
for
Yeah,
that western with Gosling and Pitt.
yeah, same.
Yeah, my third pick and final pick is Boogie Nights. I'm sure you've both seen it, and
Oh yes,
Of course.
I wanted to pick something that is like very much in that era of like the adult film
yeah,
industry, and what better movie to pick than Boogie Nights, which is probably like one of my favorite PTA movies. And yeah, I
mine too.
just one away from detective, and like it really gets the era. And I saw a lot of when they were at the pool party where all the
Yeah,
adult film actors and stuff were. That's just how I. That just kind of reminded me a lot of Boogie Nights, so that's why I went with it. And I just noticed I said in stuff, which is also a great joke in The Nice Guys when he tells
yes.
her,
Don't say and stuff. Just say stuff.
"Don't say
Yeah,
stuff." And
It's
she
just say
later
there's
tells,
horse here. Tell him
yeah,
there's horse here.
and then later she tells the adult film
yeah,
actress the same, like, "Don't say in stuff."
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's my
Very
third
good.
and final pick.
That was good.
That's
I
just
remember that pool party. That was a great scene.
Mhm. And
The
swimming with
thing,
the mermaid.
the mermaids. Yeah, I was swimming with the mermaids.
the
Yeah,
mermaid.
I mean, it's. Oh, no, I was questioning the mermaids.
Get us on
Sorry.
our way here.
Yeah, yeah,
um, but this third one that I'm picking is a little bit maybe more underseen or underground, but it's also starring my boy Elliot Gould again. I really think this Gosling character would love Elliot Gould. But it's a movie he did the year after The Long Goodbye, and it's called Busting.
all right.
And
Yeah.
it's from '74. Are you familiar with this movie, Mark?
No, I haven't seen it. I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
It's Elliot Gould and Robert Blake are like this
Oh,
like buddy
great.
cop duo. And it's directed by Peter Hyams in his first, I think,
Oh,
pretty
he's
sure this
great.
is like his debut. And he
That's
went
great.
on to do The Relic, like in the 90s. He did Capricorn 1 in the 70s.
Yeah, and
2010, the
2010.
2001 sequel,
Yeah.
which I never saw, but
Oh,
I've heard
mate,
it's not
really?
terrible.
No. It's not terrible. It's actually very good. It's
I'll check
if
it out. Yeah.
if you're one of the people, and there are, if you find 2001 a little bit confusing and or a bit um a bit too out there, this 2010 very bravely and very amazingly answers all those unanswered questions that are posed in 2001. And
Yeah.
it's a nice bookend to the story. He bravely goes, and it's got great cast. It's got Roy Scheider and
Oh, that's right.
John Lithgow and Bob Balaban and Helen Mirren playing a Russian astronaut, because it's a Russia America team up to go and find the Jupiter spaceship. And yeah, mate, I really, it's got a visually it's stunning, and story wise it's very close to the book, actually, the Arthur C. Clarke book. But I think it actually, and Hal's back, and the astronaut who went missing, goes through the Stargate. He comes back. He looks exactly the same. It's one of those great sequels that doesn't get championed enough. I think it's as good as 2001, if not as equal. But I'm in a very rare
Interesting.
minority on that one.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know a lot of people like do like that movie. Like, it's not a movie like, I feel like that's one when you do a sequel to like a massive movie, it's easy
Yeah.
to immediately just write it off, be like, oh yeah, that's just some bullshit. Like, but then you look, it's like, well, like big ones, like what are other, like Jaws 2, not a bad sequel, actually very fun, very entertaining.
I like that one. Actually, weirdly enough, I saw that one first before I saw the first
Oh
one.
really?
As a
Really?
kid, yeah, it was on TV as a kid, and it was just the second one. I didn't know there was a first one, but it's that's how young I was, and
You know what? I think same with me, actually. Now that I think about it.
yeah, and it was and but I remember being. In fact, my brother, he watched it with me, and yeah, we was in the when we were kids and we were learning to swim, and yeah, really had an effect on him. Like, he wouldn't want to go in the pool even after watching Jaws 2. But I loved it because I knew it was not real shark. You could tell it was fake. It was, in fact, the sharks got progressively worse in the series. He looks the most realistic in the first film, I think, because you see it
Yeah.
less, and they only use the
Yeah.
shots where he looks realistic. But the sharks do look progressively more fake as the series went on. But the sequel was a different, I think, for Scheider, and he didn't want to make that film either. He was
Yeah. You
strong
can
arm
tell.
into
You
doing
can
it. Yeah,
tell. Yeah.
you can tell because he had a contract. I think with Universal, they said we'll sign you up for 3 films. And the film he really wanted to make was The Deer Hunter. He was going to play the Robert De Niro role in The Deer
That's
Hunter,
right.
and for one reason or another, he had a fallout with Michael Cimino, and they said, well, you still owe us 2 films, and they said, well, we'll let you out your contract if you do Jaws 2. We'll count it as 2 films.
Hmm.
And he reluctantly said yes. But
It's
it's just,
the Jaws movies are really fun to talk about, the sequels too, because they really take
yeah.
their own liberties.
Oh, I
Like,
love them. I mean,
I
they're
love them.
terrible films, but they're great entertainment.
Yeah, because I was literally talking about this probably not even 12 hours ago. Like last night, I was literally talking about this, where Jaws 1, the shark, it's a lot of just humans, like, and their, I guess, for lack of a better term, their joining up of, or their connection with nature, and that, like, that friction. Whereas
Yeah,
Jaws 2, the shark is actively looking to fuck people up. Like,
yeah,
he is actively going well out of his way to
yeah,
cause trouble. And it's
yeah.
so funny. And especially you get to Jaws 4, the shark swims from fucking New York to the Bahamas to
The
chase
Bahamas,
this
yeah,
fucking lady. It's
yeah.
crazy.
There's a great
It
line
is
in
so
Jaws.
crazy.
It's a great line I remember in Jaws 2. The Roy Scheider character is trying to work out why there's a second shark in this film, and he
Yeah.
says, and he says that to this lady. He said, if a shark was killed, would you think another shark would turn up and try and she cuts off and says, "Sharks don't take things personally." He's just like, oh, Whereas by the fourth one, the shark is on a mission of vengeance to try and kill every member of this Roy Scheider's family. who are now living in the Bahamas, and the shark swims to the Bahamas.
It needs to
You'll
get
love it.
on
It's
Jaws
incredible, Dino. You have to see it
franchise.
to believe it. And an added bonus, you get Michael Caine,
Yeah.
um, who very vocally said he just did it for the money. I think he got like $1 million for a week's work.
Yeah.
He's not in it, and it was the reason he couldn't attend the Oscars for it to when he won his Oscar. Because they wouldn't let him go from the Bahamas, and so he had to. Someone else had to accept it, and so he was stuck in the Bahamas with this rubber shark, and he said as well. He said, "Oh, have you seen?" He said, "No, I haven't seen the film, but by all accounts, it's terrible. But I saw the house that it bought, and it's fantastic." So it's a
You got
great
the
Kane
sequels
quote.
are a lot of fun
They
for
are
those,
fun.
I love how like in the timeline, like it takes place like in each of like 3 years later, takes place
Sure.
5 years later.
Yeah.
The kids, his sons grow by like a decade in each
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
By Jaws
Yeah.
3, like they start off as like a 5-year-old in Jaws 1.
Yeah.
Only
That's
like
right.
6 years later is Jaws 3, and he's like a 33-year-old Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, it's Dennis
It's
Quaid,
crazy.
who was a massive coke addict at the time as well. He sort of took the film, but he said the cocaine budget for the film was as high as the special effects budget. He said it was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
everyone was just on it, and
Yeah.
he doesn't really remember that much of the making of the film, but he remembers having a good time. So
Yeah. But
yeah.
anyway, busting is this really
Yes, sorry.
awesome. No, I love it. Dino's probably sick of all the side tangents
Yeah.
I go on every week. So I like that I
I'm,
have someone that I can just go off on some random shit
Oh,
about.
I'm constantly doing that. It just not just a bit in podcasts, but just in life in general. I just zigzag my way through. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sick of it because I just like what you guys talked. I need to get on the Jaws franchise ASAP. I've only seen the first one, but what you guys
Yeah,
just mentioned, like I need to watch them all. They sound just
you have to.
yeah. I mean, I don't want you to think that they're actually they're high art or anything. They're just purely you can just sit there and laugh your ass off, really. But they
But
do
and
have great entertainment.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the thing that I really respect about the Jaws sequels too is that each director for each three, they're clearly very well aware that they're not going to recreate another Jaws one, so they don't even try. Like they straight up are like, let's
Oh
just
yeah.
make some like pulpy popcorn, like entertaining
Yeah.
ass shit. And it's because of that that they work. Because if they tried to be like a very serious, and not that Jaws 1 is very serious, but it's clearly the work of like a great
Yeah.
generational auteur. Like it's very
Yeah.
obvious.
Oh
And I
yeah.
like that these other directors are self-aware enough and objective with themselves enough to be like, I'm no Spielberg. Even if it's just like
Yeah.
a 28-year-old Spielberg, they're still like, I am no 27, 28-year-old Spielberg. Let's
Yeah.
just make something fun and campy, and
Yeah.
they succeed. All three of them are really fun.
Yeah, it's good, and as I say, that because I think the genie was out the bottle. Once the first film came out, it's like, well, we've seen the show, we've seen what it does. So I think by the time, as Tristan mentioned, the sequels, they just go for broke and just make them super gory and super,
Mm-hmm.
you know, unintentionally funny as well. There's some great acting because I think by the sequel it was around the time of the slasher films, so it was obviously lots of teenagers in peril and young girls going, "Come on, swim!" And
Yeah,
guys being
yeah,
chomped up, and lots of blood in the sea and everything. It's yeah, they're not high up, but they're great fun. It'd be good for an October Spooktober thing.
for sure, for sure. Jaws 2 in particular, I think Jaws 2 is like the
Yeah,
best of the sequels. It's a ton of fun.
without a doubt.
Um, but anyway, busting I highly
Busting.
recommend.
Let's
It's
go.
very
Busting.
funny. Let's busting real quick. It's I think it's most notable because I believe busting, like they said, is pretty much the main inspiration for Starsky and Hutch being created.
Oh, nice.
Like they saw busting and they're like, okay, there's something here for this sort of like cop buddy, sort of dynamic to have. And but there are these two guys who work for the LAPD, like Vice Squad, and they like are mainly breaking up like drug rings and like breaking up like prostitution rings and things like that. And they like go undercover to like gay bars and shit. And it's super funny because Elliot Gould and Robert Blake have great chemistry together. and they just they're just perfect together, and they're perfect for this type of movie. And to bring it all full circle, pulling up Peter Hyams' filmography here, which Dino, I did talk about this in an early one. He directed that Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Sudden Death, where Jean-Claude saves the Stanley Cup playoffs from explosion from Powers Booth. He tried to blow up like the Pittsburgh Stadium or some shit. But Peter Hyams is an executive producer on the Shane Black written film Monster Squad. So to bring it full circle here, as we tend to do,
that? Yeah,
that was a perfect ending.
He was an EP on that, and I'll just end it there.
Yeah, it's sheer coincidence that was it.
Yeah, pure coincidence. Wow. I had no idea until just now. I'm like, oh shit, executive producer Monster Squad.
See, that's the magic, the movie universe. Yeah.
As Dino knows, we might be the most like coincidence driven pod out there. Every single week, it always comes full circle. Like that, we're like, oh yeah, that's just like that episode we talked, or that, or whoever. But anyway, this movie is really good, really good, and for like an underseen, underrated sort of 70s noir crime movie, very. Like, I mean, I don't know that there would be like a 48 hours without this. Like, this really was kind of setting sort of like a precedent. And it's very, very, very funny. Very funny movie. I feel like Shane Black would have to be a fan.
Yeah, no, definitely. You're right, actually, because I think pre-48 hours, there was very few of the buddy cop things. The other thing that sprung to mind was James Caan and Alan Arkin, Freebie and the Bean. You know,
I never saw it. Yeah.
I mean, it's quite broad. You know, it's not. I mean, it's got its fans. It's but the comedy goes from subtle to quite over the top. So that might not be as good an example. But there was very few. But that's what I'll be interested to see. But particularly Elliot Gould, you know, who we spoke about earlier, and Robert Blake. You know, he's the In Cold Blood, right?
Yep. In Cold Blood, Lost Highway.
Lost Highway, yeah. He's. I mean, In Cold Blood's such one of my favorite films. One of my favorite books. Really, really amazing story, and because he's real life, Robert Blake ran power. You know, he had a sort of. He was OJ before OJ, right? Yeah.
Speaking of In Cold Blood, murdered his damn wife in Cold Blood.
Murdered his wife in Cold Blood. Ironically enough. The Cliff Booth in Once Upon a Time in America would have in Hollywood,
pretty much.
You know, it's definitely got his you know, similarities there. So I mean, did he make that other film as well? He played the motorcycle cop, Electric Light in Blue. Robert Blake is really good. It's a bit of a cult film.
What's it called? What's it called?
Electric Light in Blue. It's about a motorcycle cop. It's direct. The director was he used to be the manager of Chicago. You know, the group, the rock group Chicago. He was the manager or something, and he got into film directing. And he asked for Conrad Hall, the great American cinematographer, to do the cinematography on this film, because he was a big fan from Butch Cassidy and everything. And I think he waived like his director's fee to pay just for Conrad Hall to do this film. And the soundtrack, I think, are done by members of, you know, Chicago. It's a really funky 70s soundtrack. And Robert Blake's in it, and they keep taking the mickey out of him because he's only like 5'3". He's like really short guy. He says, "Well, I'm the same height as Alan Ladd, you know, so give me a break," sort of thing. So it's that's just it might be, I don't know if it's available, that film, but
I actually now that I'm looking it up some more, I actually I am aware of this movie. The poster, I
it's a famous poster immediately.
Yeah.
It's
I'll have to check that out, because Robert Blake was a great actor.
He was, I mean, regardless of what happened to him, he really was. He was terrific. I'm saying Cold Blood's just another level. You know, really, really one of the best films ever made. But I like that. I like the fact that he had the coincidences and you know, things.
I wish I could say that I planned that out ahead of time, but
I don't think you could have planned it as well.
I know, right? What a very
that was,
niche thing to plan out.
I'm very impressed. Very impressed.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much. It was really one of the a real pleasure. I could talk all the rest of the day, but obviously it's it'd just be too long a podcast. But
Yeah. But no, thank you. Thanks for coming on. When Dino told us that you were super interested, I had
Oh yeah.
just listened to, or maybe shortly after, listened to the pod episode that he did on
Oh
your
yeah.
pod.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, these guys are funny. They know their shit. They know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So I was super excited to have you on, and all the nice things that you said at the top about checking out our pod. I really appreciate that, and I know Dino
Oh
does as well. So thanks
no, my
for
pleasure.
hopping on. Had a great time with having a guest. Love having guests on here, honestly.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again for having me. And
You should
I
do it
look
more
forward
often.
to
Mark, you want to shout out your podcast so people
Yeah,
can go
drop some
listen to
plugs.
well, there's obviously it's the Wild Wisdom podcast that I'm doing with two of my college chums. We did a series called Why We Love the 80s. But we are going to well, hopefully we're trying to figure out where we're going to go next, if we go into the 90s or if we do something more just looking at different sort of genres and things. We're not sure yet, depending on what the other two guys want to do, because it's very democratic. It's not one person deciding for all. So yeah, it's that way. It's Wild Wisdom podcast. I'm sure if you put it in YouTube, you'll find it. But that's it at the moment, really. It's I did do another podcast on another guy on Instagram. He's you probably know him. His name's Gordon. He goes under the name of Fuck It Dude, Let's Go Bowling, from the Big Lebowski. I don't know if you guys follow him, but he's got a podcast called the Lone Acting Nominees Podcast, and his thing is to take a film that was only nominated for one Oscar, and it was only for acting. And there's probably about 200 films that were only nominated for one Oscar that was for acting. And so I talked. I've done about 3 of them there. I did one about Ben Kingsley and in Sexy Beast, and then there's Bob Hoskins in Mona Lisa, and most recently I did A Quiet American with Michael Caine, because it just coincided with his announcement of retirement. So we're talk about that, and Brendan Fraser as well. Yeah, trying to before his Renaissance,
Renaissance.
Yeah, he's in it as well. He's still a bit wet behind the ears a little bit, because he's just sort of a bit outclassed by Michael Caine, bless him. But it's a good film. It's really good. So I did that recently as well. So you'll find that at the Lone Acting Nominees podcast, which you can probably get, wherever you listen to your podcast.
Yes, everyone has something. If they miss your voice, they can go and listen to those and hear more.
I'm probably sick of hearing my voice, really. I know I am. It's really weird if you guys find that when you listen to it back and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, I don't sound like that, do I?
I don't think I've listened back to a single episode of the podcast because I can't. I think the first episode I did, I listened back after like 5 minutes. I'm like, I can't listen to my own voice. I can't listen to this. So I don't know that I've listened back to a single episode.
I have the pleasure of editing those, so I have to listen to quite a bit, which I don't like listening to my own voice, but it's okay. I edit those, and then it's gone.
Good. I'm glad we're all in the same boat there, because it's quite dramatic. But I'm just thrilled to have the opportunity to talk to fellow-minded people out there who just love the films, and also giving out recommendations, but also you're giving me recommendations. I mean, I got quite a few there I've noted down. So I'll be on that. I'll be chomping at the bit to get cracking.
Let us know what you think too.
Yeah, I will.
If you check out any of the ones that we dropped,
and like I say,
and if you're looking for anyone to talk 70s or anything like that on the pod, I'm that guy. So get me.
You're the guy. I will. No, I'll hopefully I'll come back and we'll maybe do another Gosling, because I'm assuming you'll go right back to the start with because the first film I saw him in, funnily enough, was I think one of the first films he made, which was The Believer. I don't know if you saw
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Very powerful film, and based on a true story, I believe.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that thinking, Christ, you know, yeah, it was quite overpowering. But then I found out it was true. So it was that, and I thought, well, this guy's got a good future ahead of him, you know, because I think we're quite similar ages as well, me and Ryan. That's for the only thing I got in common with him.
Yeah.
You know, the literally me bit of the podcast. We're probably about the same age, but he's really good in that. And then Half Nelson as well. I remember seeing. When it came out, he was in a and you know, when he's indie cinemas, because it wasn't showing in a mainstream cinema. But I remember seeing it, and the handful of people there, they were literally, you know, they didn't. It's one of those great films. You know, when a film's good and people don't get out their seats to leave when the titles come up, they're still sitting there absorbing it, and that's, you know, a sign of a good film, I think.
That was kind of that method-ish sort of era of Gosling,
he was,
like Half Nelson, Lars, and The Real Girl, Blue Valentine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Blue Valentine. God, that's definitely not a date movie, as I found out.
No. Yeah, no. Not at least if you like the girl.
That's more of a last date movie, you know.
Yeah.
Things
Exactly.
I've had a few of those over the years. I remember going to see Saving Private Ryan. I wasn't going to see that. I was going out with this girl I really liked, and she wanted to see the film we were going to see. I can't remember what it was, but it was sold out. And so she looks at the marquee and there's a poster of Tom Hanks, Saving Private Ryan. She goes, "Oh, I love Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Let's go and see that. You know, let's go and see that.
Let's settle in for 2.5 hours.
Yeah." And I was like, okay, we'll do it. And she watched the first half an hour of the film. She was watching with her hands over her eyes. And it was just, she was so bowled out and, you know, in tears by the end of it. So, but that wasn't intentional. I mean, I would never take, you know, go on a date to see that. But I'm glad I saw that at the cinema. That's definitely one of those great moments where you see, you know, this is a great film, and you see it as intended. You know, it's I'm lucky we still have the theatre experience, like Dina was telling me about Oppenheimer. You know, you got to see it on the big screen as intended. You know, you can't watch that one you know, downloaded. It's did you see Napoleon, by the way?
Not yet.
Not yet, no. I'm probably going to go next week. I didn't have time, but I really want to.
Yeah, let me know what you think. It's good. You know, I mean, it's Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, it's almost like he hasn't decided how to play the role. He's still a little bit of Joker and some other characters he's kind of thrown in there. It's a little bit, you know, mixed with real facts about Napoleon. But I know a lot of it is fictionalized. But it's Ridley Scott, as I mentioned earlier. It was he can just direct anything, and you just want to watch it because it just looks great. And but it did feel a bit incomplete, you know, because it's about 2.5 hours.
I heard it was the funniest movie of the year from a lot of people.
Of generally laugh out loud. If you walked in halfway through, you could hear the audience laughing. It was. I mean, I won't spoil it because there's a genuinely funny bit, and it's quite explicit as well. You know, the sex scenes with Josephine. You know, but it's the way he does it. You know, it's just he's going for something different that you wouldn't normally see another actor doing as Napoleon. So yeah, it's good. But I'd be interested to see the 4-hour cut because Ridley's director's cuts are usually better.
Yeah,
like the Kingdom of Heaven being a good example. I saw that at the cinema when it came out and thinking a bit underwhelming, and then the director's cut, and he just restored about 40 minutes, and or 45 minutes, and it just made a whole difference. Made a completely different film and a 5-star film. It just enhanced it so much better. All little subplots with, you know, Edward Norton as the Leper King and Eva Green and everything. It was yeah, that was a superb film. But yeah, no, but happy if you do another chat and you want someone to talk your ears off. Yeah, let me know.
We absolutely will.
Yeah,
we absolutely will. Well,
all the very best with it, guys, and thank you very much again.
Thank you for doing this with us. It's truly an honor. And one more question really quickly before we go. On a scale from 1 to 10,
Oh yeah.
What should we do, Tristan?
I mean,
1 to 10.
Yeah.
Let's see. We can do 1 to 10 murdered porn stars, I guess.
That's a good one. From a scale from 1 to 10 murdered porn stars, how much of Ryan Gosling's character in this, I forgot his name, in The Nice Guys, is literally you?
Oh my god. Well, the clumsiness, I guess. I mean, that's pretty high up there. And the yeah. I mean, it's pretty up there. It's well over halfway. So I guess a 6 or 7. You know, on a scale
That's
of 1 to 10, dead murder porn stars.
Mhm.
Definitely a set of 7, I guess. But how about yourselves?
Tristan, do you want
Oh,
to go first?
Yeah, I think I might be at around a 7 as well. I think I think he thinks he's a lot cooler than maybe he actually is.
yeah.
And that could probably just define me pretty well. So I would give it probably 7 or 8 murdered porn stars there.
For me, probably as well, like 7 or 8. That scene in the beginning where he's in the suit in the bathtub, just laying there with water, I think that's pretty
Yeah.
relatable. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with an 8.
We can relate to that one. Definitely.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on this episode. We'll be sure to have you on again while we go through Ryan Gosling's filmography. And next week we're going with a personal favorite of mine, The Big Short. I love this movie. I've seen it so many times, and
It's a good one.
I'm excited to talk about it. Dino, have you seen The Big Short?
I have.
You've seen it, right?
It's been
Yeah.
a while and you saw it recently, so
Yeah, that's another one. I've literally seen that movie like 3 or 4 times this year alone. I needed once Succession ended, I just needed another hit of I needed something to get my rocks off to, and The Big Short was like the closest thing to Succession that I had. So so I watched it an awful lot this year. So I'm excited to rewatch it again and talk about it.
same. It's gonna be a great episode. And thank you all for listening to this one. Hope you liked it and see you next week. Bye bye.
Peace out.
See you later.